Welcome back to Clash On with TheJakeman. I am TheJakeman, and welcome back to the show. And also, happy Super Bowl Sunday. So let's get a quick video in before the big game happens. I've got a couple of things I want to talk to you guys about. We're back on the progress here, looking pretty solidly before the February update. It looks like that the update is going to be coming in on Monday. So that's tomorrow, folks. So where do we stand? How do we look? What's the whole scoop? So let's take a look at my hero haul here. I want to take a look and see how we're doing here. So I think Minion Prince goes to 90, if I recall. I think that's the case. Yeah, it looks like that's where it's going to be coming in. He's going to be getting a new equipment called the Metal Pants. So that's me coming in tomorrow. So we're going to have new access to additional Minion Prince equipment. So the rest of my crew are all maxed. That is fantastic. The next, we're going to look at the pet. Now, all of my pets are maxed. So that works out well. I like the Angry Jelly on the Minion Prince for other reasons. We'll do a video about that some other time when we don't have as much to talk about as far as the February update and, of course, the snake event that's currently going on, and we'll take a look at that right here in a moment. The pet rumor that is coming out, there's going to be a new pet. Evidently, that might not be this update. I didn't see any sneak peeks about the pet, so maybe the pet got delayed. With all of the sneak peeks or even some of the bases that Clash of Clans ended up showing us, they ended up having a new pet house. And I did a couple of videos about the pet house as well. So we'll just have to wait to see till tomorrow, but that most likely got a delay. So I'm sitting really well with the gold and the elixir and dark elixir. I've got about 1,300 gems. That's most likely not going to do it. But let's talk a little bit about what is going to be coming up tomorrow in the February update. Folks, we are about to get what I have been waiting for since the beginning of time. This is probably the #1 balance change that we're going to end up getting, and that is you're going to be able to take gold and turn it into elixir. So in our friends, this little house here over here with the lab assistant and the builder's apprentice, there's going to be an additional one called the alchemist. So the alchemist is going to give us the opportunity once a day to convert gold into elixir, or elixir into gold, or dark elixir into elixir, whatever you need. That is the biggest change to an overall big problem that I've always had with Clash of Clans. We were being forced to sit on a tremendous amount of elixir, and then they were saying, don't upgrade, use your gems, but then you're bottlenecked within your laboratory. So when the laboratory was bottlenecked, because then you had all these and all your elixir troops were already done, so you're sitting on this mountain of elixir and or dark elixir, which also allows us to continue to grind walls. And of course, we are going to be getting more walls. So this is becoming another fantastic way, give us a little bit better of a playability in our balance for the game as well. So those are the things I'm most excited about. As I said, the Minion Prince is getting that new equipment. I think that was the main things that I was the most excited about. Of course, we are getting the nerfs. So the nerfs tomorrow are going to be in the electro boots, and the earthquake boots are the biggest ones. But we're also getting the buff to the life gem and the barbarian puppet. The barbarian puppet is getting a huge boost. And the Vamp Stash is also going to be getting a large buff. So a lot of interesting things that are coming to the February update. As you see, I really primarily like what I have. I've got my healer and my giant arrow. I have the Eternal Tome. And I'm probably going to spend some time on the healing tome as well, because of the miner and hog and allowing this amount of healing upon healing upon healing. So that's something I'm going to look at. Lots of fun things to really get into with the new updates. I'd like to see one other thing on the Royal Champion that gives us more of the invisibility, but right now you're only getting that invisibility with the Hog. But since what we're talking about today is the Queen Mother, the Royal Champion, let's go in there and let's talk about our girl, the Royal Champion. So there's a lot about the invisibility spell that's also getting nerfed along with the electro boots, but there are some very interesting things that I've discovered about how to place her properly. When we are deploying our main troops, we're supposed to hold back the RC deployment until we're supposed to hold back our armies until we've already used the RC charge. I'm going to show you a couple of things that are really a lot easier and you can focus. That's the thing that I hear the most from everyone, is talking about how it's so difficult to maintain your eyes on the Royal Champion, or if she's running away, or the Spirit Fox is kind of doing something else. So this is for you guys. So we're going to talk about how to deploy the Royal Champion the correct way. I'm going to show you the most common Royal Champion deployment. Most of the time, you are going to get a main army push. All right, so you're going to have a main army that you're going to choose on one side of each side of the base here, okay? That is going to be the funneling for your main side of the base. And before you do that, of course, you're going to try to scope out in the base which one is going to be, or which area is going to be the most value for your Royal Champion. Those values are typically fire spitters, so you have those here. You also have the monolith, which is within the core of the base next to the town hall. So this has a pretty centralized core, so it becomes just get your Royal Champion as deployed as possible and try to take down so much value. So typically you're always going to try to get anywhere between 15, I would say 20% of your Royal Champion that's going to give you that much damage before you do your main deployment. So that is pretty typical. You're not going to see any real changes that I'm going to talk about this before, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a main deployment here, funneling, or your main troop configuration and or army pushing into the base. And let's say you deployed your Royal Champion over here, and then have her try to get into as much as she can. So that is usually what happens. But with this replay, you're going to see how that works. And also going forward, we're going to see some other things as well, other opportunities. So let's take a look. So as you can see, I am putting my main army, I'm putting my Royal Champion down here in the corner. So I'm seeing that there is an opportunity here to hit her in this location right in here. Okay, so you can see how that works. Now I'm using looks like 9 invisibility spells on this one, and I did a pretty okay job. We're going to look at some other things throughout here as well, and there's something that I can't really tell yet, but I'm gonna do a video about it, and I'm gonna see if I can figure something out that's a pretty neat indicator with the Spirit Fox. I'm doing some analysis and some research on it right now. So the RC is really kind of moving through the base like this, and then she kind of comes into and settles, but then gets caught up right in there with the invisibility spell tower, and then she ends up going off. Now there is some time, you can see that I did get some couple of hits onto her, then I recall her back. So once I recall her back, we are now in a main plate. So we're going to have the firecracker and both firecrackers on both sides. So you have one firecracker out here, 2 firecrackers, which ended up funneling the base. So the funnel ends up pushing, like, everything pushes so well that it kind of goes like this, which my RC ended up getting a pretty good about 13%. So that wasn't too terrible. And as you can see, the clumping, or the army decided to stay together. I got a very good deployment with the queen, and this was a clan war league, and I think this was going against the number 3 person on the squad. So I was very proud of this attack. Now I'm still holding. Now, I still had the Royal Champion, so she was able to be deployed at the back of the base and then do more of a cleanup. So the main army went in, and then once the main army goes in, then you have that push. So let's take a look and see one other thing here before we go back. I want to show. So notice the Archer Queen has a great deployment here and shoots through the base. And this is my main army, but over here now I have the Royal Champion who was deployed. So she comes in with all of this tanking in the middle of the base. So since there was so much tanking, she was able to use her almost immediately. I waited about 3 seconds and used her ranged arrow that was really just amazing how she cleaned up the base behind with almost full health, and my Spirit Fox was still alive. So as you can see, the rest of this base is just gone, and you have the heroes at the top. You even have a Yeti, plus I had some healers on the base, on the troops as well. So this was just an all-around fantastic 3-star that was able to put us over the top for Clan War Leagues. And as at the end here, we're just doing the normal cleanup, and then you have the 3-star. That was the typical way that you see the Royal Champion either come in behind the troops, or even, that was the typical way. RC deployment at the beginning using the invisibility spells, recall her, bring her back, send in your army, and then put her in behind and let her continue to use her abilities, especially if you can keep the Spirit Fox alive and you have not used. Big point here with that kind of attack, you must make sure that you keep her ability. I try to keep a real sense of transparency for you guys, so I'm going to show you how the RC was deployed incorrectly and the difference between a really high 2-star and a fantastic 3-star. So let's take a look and see how the Royal Champion was deployed poorly on this one. So I have the Yetis that came in over here. I have the Siege Barracks, and I put in the entire Yeti army with the Warden, and then I almost immediately used the Queen, and the Queen's arrow shot like that, and that was no bueno. Now over here you can see that I've done the RC is over there on that side, so she's too far away. Okay, I liked having her over there. As far as that, I used some snake barrels as kind of some tanking for that. You can see the king was using the snake bracelet. I still, jury's out on snake bracelet. I only have it at level 12. So the main, I guess the only hope left here was my RC with the other invisibility spells. I then chose to recall her, which didn't go very well, and I sent her over here, and I ended up using her ability too early. I could have ran her one more time with the invisibility and then deployed her abilities right in here at the top, which would have cleaned up this part of the base here. I did have that freeze, which was helpful, and then I ended up getting toasted by the Inferno Tower. The rest of or the single Inferno Tower. So the rest, I had some cleanup troops. So she was too far away from the bulking of the base. She was over here, and then the rest of my troops were over here. So when she's too far, you have to keep her relatively the same distance. So the big part is that if you're going to keep main army over here, and then you put your RC over here. That's too much distance. And also the tracking of the main artillery that comes out of the core of the base can then focus on her, which you don't want. You want the majority to come over here and hit the large amount of your troops from a tanking perspective. So I deployed her, I think, a little too early and should have waited just a moment and maybe put her on this end or even on this end in order to make sure that she had some tanking. Here we have the deployment correctly. All right, with the other one, I had the bulk of my army over here and I put the RC over here. This army is going to come in over here and the RC is going to come in over here. The main thing I want you, so the RC is going to come in and tank like this with the rest of my army coming in like that. I got to around, I want to say 18%-ish, and the core of the base ended up not talking to her, not getting involved with her. So the Inferno, our artilleries, ended up doing like this, which was too much for the RC to handle, which allowed her to almost take out this side of the main part of the base, whereas I pushed in like this. So that's what I want you to see from a standpoint of how this was done correctly. So there's the deployment of my army. I had the Yeti with the snake barrels. The snake barrels, I'm still kind of figuring that out, but you can see how they all go into that melee, which also tanks, but they die very, very quickly. I should not have gone against that fire spitter. That was another thing that we need to make sure. Don't aim towards the fire spitter. Let's see, the RC deployment was correctly. Watch how I used the snake barrels, and she ended up walking with the snake barrels all the way up through that left side of the base. So not only was I keeping her invisible, I was keeping about 30 snakes invisible as well. And it just decimated this base. So a pretty high-powered Town Hall 17. It had a couple of things upgrading, but for the most part, if you do this correctly, and then I recalled her again, and I didn't really need to. This thing was already done. So I recalled I recalled the queen, excuse me. So when you see such decimation, you end up getting almost different things that you can talk about. So when you see that much damage, you have other opportunities and you're sitting on that recall spell. So why not just use the recall spell for the most powerful hero that you had available? In that case, the RC had done so much for me. She stayed alive. I was just able to bring the queen up to the top and explode through the base as well. That was the correct deployment of the Royal Champion. And you can see how that works. So I'm giving you different opportunities, different options to use the RC. There's a lot of discussion around whether or not the Royal Champion should be deployed only at certain times, but I wanted to show you that there was different opportunities. So that's where it was. So that main play here, this was when she went in right there. So rather than this area, she ended up doing this area all the way up to the top and pushed with the snakes. And then once she pushed through, the rest of the army was able to destroy all this, keeping everything alive while she destroyed everything like this. So we did do some pretty interesting things with those snake barrels. We had 1, 2, 3 snake barrels at 16. So you're talking about 50 plus snakes that came with her that were invisible. No base is going to be able to withstand that. So if you're talking about 50 plus and you can keep them alive, the snakes are very, very potent, and they have the ability to come in and save the day for you. Well, I certainly hope that you have enjoyed this episode of the correct deployment of the Royal Champion. Get out there, folks. Enjoy it. There's a lot going on with the snake event, and you have rewards upon rewards upon rewards. All of this ore is important. So on the next video, I've got 15 accounts. I'm going to try to get them all synced. I don't know if I'll be able to get them all synced into my PC, but we're going to try to do a snake event grind where I get the snake bracelet on every single one of my accounts. Might be 2 or 3 episodes, but it should be a lot of fun. Again, let me know how you enjoyed this. Let me know if you agree with the Royal Champions deployment and how I feel about it. But always, always clash on, everybody. This has been another episode of Clash On with the TheJakeman. Make sure and like and subscribe. Come on back. We'll do it again. See you next time.